Hi, welcome to the Bookish Quilter, where we talk about quilts and we talk about books. My name is Barbara, and today we're going to talk about those fabrics you don't want to cut into pieces. Maybe they're large-scale fabrics, maybe you just love them a lot. Maybe they're novelty prints. Well, I'm going to show you how to make a quick and easy table mat or table runner, pretty much any size you want. And we're going to start with those novelty type prints. Okay, here is a Christmas print, very cute. You wouldn't want to chop it into little squares, you'd lose the adorable little snowman. So I made this octagonal mat. The center square I believe is about 10 inches, and the borders finish at 1 inch, 1 inch, and 1.5. I like to do more than one border on these pieces. I like the outer border to be a little larger than the others. So here's one. Here's another one. Coincidentally, it's also a Christmas fabric. This one started out as a fat quarter. Batik one was a linear quarter, 9 inches by width of fabric. This is not finished, and I'm going to show you how to put the outer border on. It's going to have a bluish green outer border, and the way you put the borders on is the same for any shape and any border. To make an octagonal mat, you need to start with a square of fabric, the size of your center portion of your mat. I'm going to use a piece of paper to demonstrate. This paper is 11 inches square. I'm going to fold it in quarters and measure my folded square, which is now 5.5 inches. I'm going to work from this corner that has no folds, right here. This is the corner I'm going to measure from. I'm going to measure half of the length of each side. So half of 5.5 is 2 3/4, and I am going to go 2 3/4. Make a little mark here, 2 3/4, make a mark there. I'm now going to cut between the marks. Basically, I'm cutting the corner off. And that leaves me with my octagonal shaped piece of fabric here. To make a table runner or a placemat, you need a rectangle. Again, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to fold it in half, fold in half again, and you're going to work from the corner that has no folds. This one measures about 3 inches. So I'm going to go 1.5 inches from the corner in each direction. 1.5 here, 1.5 here. And I'm going to, again, cut the fabric. And there is my piece all cut for the center of my mat. Now, once again, you're going to be doing this with your fabric, not a piece of paper. And this can be any size. You need to sort of reverse engineer what size you need to make this by starting with your finished size and saying, I want my mat to measure 18 inches square when it's finished. And I'm going to put 2 borders, and my border is going to be a 1 inch and a 1.5. So that's going to be 2.5 on each side. That's going to be 5. So you're going to subtract 5 from the finished size you want it to be. So 5 from 18, you're going to start with about a 13-inch square of fabric. I don't get too precise about the measurements because none of these are items that have to measure a specific size. As long as they're within an inch or so, that's fine. So the next step is I'm going to show you how to sew your borders on. It doesn't matter whether you're sewing the first row, second row, third row, or whatever. They're all sewn the exact same way. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put my border right just past the end of that. Put a pin and put a pin on the end of that side. And I'm going to sew. I'm going to finger press this back, and I'm now going to cut. I'm going to cut this end even with this row here, like that. And I'm going to cut this even with that. Now I'm going to pin the border onto the next side. And one thing I forgot to say was I sew my border strips into one long strip. That way you don't have to worry about running out in the middle of a side, especially on something like this where you have a long side. Now that I've got it all pinned, I'm going to sew that side. And once again, I fold this back. I trim this even with this last border that I sewed on. And then I go down to the other end. And I trim that one even with the next border. So this here is going to be what I'm going to sew next. I'm going to trim this even with that. And now I'm going to sew on one more. Stick a couple pins. This is a short border here, so that'll do it. And I'm going to sew. And once more, I'm going to flip back, finger press, line this up with the previous border, and cut. Go to the other end, line it up with the next border, and cut. And you're going to continue that all the way around until you're done. One thing I didn't mention is how long to make your border strips. Unfortunately, there's no easy formula with the octagonal ones. I like to measure the perimeter of my starting square before I trim it down and cut 2 to 3 times that length for my strips. For the longer ones, like the table runner, you may need 3 or even 4 strips, 3 or even 4 times the perimeter. As I said, there's no real easy formula. So just make sure you have enough fabric. Okay. Rather than talk about a specific book, I'm going to talk about a series of books. This is a mystery series, the Maisie Dobbs books by Jacqueline Winspear. Maisie Dobbs is a private investigator who goes into business at a time when women did not do such things. She trained under the apprenticeship of a man named Maurice, who taught her everything he knows, including Eastern philosophies and meditation and other practices which helped her greatly with both her personal life and her career. There are quite a few books in the series, and sadly the last book will be published. Right now this is April of 2024. I believe the last one is coming out in June of this year. They're really wonderfully well-written series, evocative of a time and a place that is no longer. And Maisie is just one of the most wonderful characters you'll ever read about. So I hope you'll give that series a try if you haven't already. And just a little bit about the quilt behind me. This is actually a bed runner. It's made to go across the bottom of a bed and add a pop of color to an otherwise drab bedspread. I call it Rick Rack Charm Packed Bed Runner. It takes 1 charm pack and the background fabric, and it is available as a PDF pattern, and I will link to that below. It's very easy to make, and actually one customer who purchased this said to me, you know, if you put 3 of them together side by side, you'll have a bed quilt, which is certainly another option, even though it's not in the pattern. A little bit about what's coming up in the future. I am going to make a charm pack pattern here with you. I'm going to walk you through making a table runner and 5 placemats. If you have a 42 square charm pack and 1.5 yards of fabric, you can make, as I said, a table runner and 5 placemats, and that will be coming up shortly. And I just wanted to show, when I did my video on how to make a flange, I finished my little sample. I just layered it, quilted it very simply. I quilted in the ditch between the blocks, and then I quilted about 1/2 inch from the flange and from the binding. And I put a couple little hanging triangles in 2 corners. I like to do these to hang my quilts. So just a fun little project that I finished. I hope you've enjoyed this. If so, please subscribe, like, comment, ring the bell to be notified for more videos, and I will see you in a few days. Have a great day. Bye-bye.